Good morning, everybody. It has been such a long time since I posted anything on this channel, but I'm trying to separate my health and fitness channel from my just personal opinions. I really want to make sure that channel stays a personal development and fitness and health channel, and this one is more about me just talking about life and things like that. Anyway, so today we are going to be I'm going to be reacting to the viral moment on the Andrew Schulz podcast where he is talking with two Black British men about the Black community in Britain, but also on the whole. And he makes some pretty flagrant assumptions. And of course, in very typical sort of like white comedian fashion, he's berating Black women and ranting about these stereotypes about Black women. And people aren't really upset about that. They're upset about how the Black men reacted to this. And so I want you guys to listen, and then I'm going to give you guys my take. And it's probably going to offend some of you, but here we are. So let me share my screen. And then let me just make sure I can hear it for you guys, because sometimes I can't hear things. So
What is the black girlfriend effect?
let's see.
What is the black girlfriend effect?
Perfect. Okay, so he asked, what is the Black girlfriend effect? And then you guys go ahead and listen.
Oh, you might not know
You
about
just
this.
glow up the other culture.
Yeah, so you'll see a guy who's had a black girlfriend, all of a sudden he's got buzz cut, like clean shape up.
They shave their hair because they start losing it. Because they're so stressed being around this black girl complaining about shit all the time.
So there's stereotype number one. They're losing their hair because Black women are complaining all the time. And then I just want you to notice how these men are just absolutely, just torn apart, giggling like schoolgirls with this sort of, rhetoric.
They grow a beard because there's more cushion when they get slapped the fuck out.
So again, yet another, stereotype of Black women are violent, and these guys are just tickled to the core. Oh my gosh, how funny. He's so funny.
Also on a recent podcast on Poor Minds, James and Fuhad were asked if there were any baddies in Atlanta, and they stated they had seen the least baddies in Atlanta, which definitely didn't sit right with people.
There are baddies there? In Atlanta?
In Atlanta, I've seen the least baddies so far.
Oh.
Yeah. I just told.
Okay, that is not the entirety of the clip. Let me just stop that. I'll talk about that part there. So people are upset because Andrew Schulz, this actually goes on for quite a while. He's like, he's just absolutely degrading, the femininity of Black women, and they're just these stereotypes. And these two guys are just tickled with rage, I guess, tickled to the bone about these comments. And so they received a lot of backlash because Black women were like, really? You're going to let this man sit up here and talk about, because these men are, one of them, I think he might be half Black, but the other guy's Black. It's like, they're talking about your mother. Like, that's exactly who they're speaking about. They're speaking about the womb from which you came, and you really think this is appropriate. And I said, I'm like, why are people upset about this? Because this does not surprise me one bit. And here's why. Okay, you guys, this is literally how slavery happened. There is this need in our community to be accepted by white men, and particularly on behalf of Black males. So we call it shucking and jiving in our community, where you're tap dancing, shucking and jiving to appear like we're on the same side. And because there is this innate, I don't even know if it's fear, but it's desire to please white men, they will readily degrade the people in their own race to achieve this welcome from the white community. Now, we saw this with Candace Owens, and she actually exposed the fact that when she was working for the Daily Wire, they encouraged her to berate Black people. They encouraged her to talk about how ghetto white people or Black people were, right? And so we know that this is something that's happening in certain circles. But what's really disgusting about this is that this is quite literally how slavery happened. When you get to the point where you are more concerned about making someone else feel comfortable at the expense of your dignity, you will always give yourself over to to bondage, because you are in bondage to that person because you need them to like you. So I can just imagine, 400 years ago or whatever, even before that, these white men coming up and, oh, white men, oh yes, let me make sure that they like me. Yes, here, take our women, because that means that you surely will not turn on me next. Boom. What happened? You're a slave too. Because remember, they did send the women over first, by the way. That's the irony. So it does not shock me that this is happening, and you should not be shocked either. This is very typical. When people think that they are better than other Black people, they will readily throw Black people under the bus in the face of non-Black people to garner attention, to gain their respect, to gain their perceived acceptance into the community, but not all the while not realizing that Andrew Schulz was running a test. So this is something that people will do too. They'll test whether or not they can say things around you. They'll test whether or not you will check them. And by the way, you can definitely check people respectfully. All they had to do was say, that's actually not true. All of the women that I've dated who are Black were very respectful, and that's all they had to say. All they had to do was shut that down, but they couldn't do it, because they were so enamored and so scared. You can be both enamored and scared of Andrew Schulz that they couldn't speak the truth. So either two things are true. Number one, they completely 100% wholeheartedly agree with him, which is totally possible. I want you guys to know it is totally possible that they also have this, incorrect stereotype about Black women and despise them. It is not, like I said in my title, this is very typical in the Black community, just a self-hatred that is abundant. It's very typical. It would not surprise me at all. Or number two, which I think it's a mix of both. They were so scared to fight back because Black men have a hard time pushing up against white men. It's a very learned behavior. Black women will do it, and that's how we earn the stereotype of being combative, right? Black women will do that. We have no problem asserting ourselves or standing up for ourselves. Black men have a hard time doing that. This is typical. A lot of Black men have a hard time doing that. There's this like innate, like I said, fear of white men, and so they have a hard time saying no to them. And so this doesn't shock me. It does not surprise me, and you should not be surprised either. What this goes to show is that while, like on a larger scale, we're talking about, oh, we're kings and queens and it's that and the third. It's like, no, we're not, because kings and queens do have no problem standing up to other people. Kings and queens have no problem calling out right and wrong. Kings and queens have no problem establishing dominance or establishing boundaries. That's what Andrew Schulz was doing. He was establishing dominance. I'm going to see if I can talk about the very womb that you came out of and see if you'll push back on me. And they bowed down, honey, bowed down like this. Yes, massa. Yes, whatever you say is right. And that's just what they do. Like, I mean, it's very typical in our community. We haven't quite learned how to stand up for ourselves, which is kind of why we're still in a lot of the positions that we're in, is because we do have this, we're still a little mentally enslaved. Just a little bit mentally enslaved. Like it's a hard thing to break. And these men are from the UK, so we're not even talking about American men. And from what I understand, in the UK, you are allowed, like, race. They don't talk about racism in the UK like they talk about it in the United States. In the United States, we're all about, at least on the surface level, we're all about calling it out, right? In the UK, you just kind of put your head down and you just go about your business. And so that's why, people perceive the United States as more racist. But the reality is people just don't talk about it in the UK. So this actually is on brand. It makes a ton of sense from where they're from, because they're afraid of the monarchy. They're so afraid of the monarchy in the UK. So it doesn't shock me. I mean, here's the thing. We in the United States know that there are, of course, some Black women who fit that stereotype. But to wholesale slap that onto a entire demographic of people, and then to sit up there as a Black man and laugh about it is crazy. But here's the one thing I'm going to say about this. I'm going to do a school shooter profile. It is also white culture to shoot up schools. Like if we're going to call a spade, you're not going to find Black boys and girls, committing mass shootings, right? That's a white culture thing. So if you want to go ahead and start to label things as cultural stereotypes, we can start to do that. We can say, okay, well, this is typical of this community. Typical of that community is to shoot up schools. That's the only people who do that. 99% of the people who do that look like Andrew Schulz. So that's their culture. The people who invented these ideologies around gender, that is that group, right? It's not us. That's not something that we have engaged in. So every group has their stereotype. The problem is that we're afraid to give everybody else theirs. We're just like, no, we don't want to do that. But that's the truth. That's the truth. So yeah, I don't know why people are shocked by this. I don't think you should be shocked. This is very on brand. This is very typical. I think YouTube is glitching my video now because I used the S word. So yeah, we should not be shocked by this at all. If you guys agree with me, leave a comment below. If you disagree with me, totally fine. You just have to do so respectfully. I'm okay with disagreement. You just have to do so respectfully, not disrespectfully, respectfully. And I will see you guys in the next one. I'm going to bang out another video in just a minute.